and welcome to Council Catch-Up. I'm Derek Westby, your host here on WSTO TV. And we'd just like to remind you, WSTO is on TDS Channel 12, Spectrum Cable Channel 981. We are also on Android and iOS apps. You can find us in your app stores on those devices. We are also on your smart TV on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And you can also find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So we're going to talk about the council meeting from Tuesday, January 24th, and that was a very eventful meeting. So we went through the roll call and the minutes and all of that kind of great stuff. The first thing we had really was a presentation by Stoughton Trailers.
So STI Holdings is Stoughton Trailers, and recently they purchased 180 plus acres of land out on the east side of Highway B and Highway 51 on the corner there. So right across the street from the Stoughton Wellness and all the way to the back of Sand Hill School. And the plan for them would be to put their corporate headquarters there, have an oversized park, and then have some housing there.
That park will be really handy with that new apartment building coming in.
Yeah, so there's a lot of activity out there right now. And in 2026, there'll be a roundabout at Highway B. So we're working with the engineers, the county, the DOT, in order to, put a project together that will serve that development.
That sounds awesome. And then also a reminder that the Sustainability Committee has their survey to help decide different sustainability initiatives. Is there any more about that you can tell us about?
You can find the survey on our City of Stoughton website, on our City of Stoughton Facebook, and I believe there are some paper copies available at the library and the senior center.
Sounds awesome. And then there was the consent agenda, which just approved some operator licenses and that kind of stuff for alcohol sales. And then in old business, there was a amending City Ordinance Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 2, Section 2-67A of the Municipal Code. What is that?
So we have 6 standing committees, and a few years ago we decided that we would allow community members up to 2 to serve on 5 of the 6 committees. So that would be the Park and Rec Committee, the Public Works Committee, Public Safety Committee, Personnel Committee, and Community Affairs Council Policy Committee. And we inadvertently had appointed a community member to be the vice chair at our reorganizational meeting, which began a discussion on whether or not that would be something that we would allow. And we had to change the language in the ordinance to accommodate that. And then the other part of that is the standing committee chair people also serve on our capital improvement project committee, and that's the committee that gets together on an annual basis to review the budget requests for the money that we borrow. So it's typically buildings and vehicles and large supplies. So we added language in there that would allow the community member to serve as the vice chair, but to select an alternate council member to serve on the CIP committee if the committee chairperson was not available.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So then we have Resolution 9 of 2023, which is a certified survey map to combine parcels for Cummins over on Highway 51-138.
So the Cummins headquarters is over there, and they need some additional space behind the building. So the CSM is a certified survey map, which you can use to either connect or create new properties. So they wanted to connect their property and then build a warehouse on that property. You won't be able to see the warehouse from Main Street, but they definitely need some additional space.
All right. And then the next resolution, which was Resolution 10, a conditional use for an indoor restaurant, Black Cat Cafe at 183 West Main. What's that? So
Black Cat Cafe is a business that recently came to Stoughton, and there's actually 2 businesses that are in the building currently. The Black Cat Cafe, they do custom greeting cards. There's an artist that works on site, and that's what she does. And then there's also a custom picture framing company in there as well that is owned by the landlord of the building. And Black Cat Cafe has in their business plan is they want to be able to do gluten-free smoothies and other types of drinks and desserts in there. So in order to do that, they need a conditional use permit to have basically a commercial kitchen. So they're working with their architects right now to make the accommodations that are necessary from the building standpoint to add that business into that building.
Sounds good. And then Resolution 11 was to adopt an amendment to the 2022 budget for the Landmarks Commission.
So the Landmarks Commission has been working on a multi-year project to update the design standards as they relate to historical preservation, and that's in our ordinance number 38. So they began that process, and we're basically carrying over the excess money that we had budgeted for that so they can complete that process.
That makes a lot of sense there, too. And then Ordinance 2 of 2023, for a first reading, was to amend Section 2-585 relating to a hotel-motel tax of the municipal code.
Yeah, so currently for our room tax for our hotels, bed and breakfast, Airbnbs, and those types of short-term stay places, we charge a 6% room tax, and we can go up to 8%, and that's what the recommendation is to move the tax amount up to 8%. That revenue, it mostly goes to the visitor services in the Chamber of Commerce. The visitor services, they take that money and they reinvest it in advertising to bring more people to Stoughton, which ultimately will put heads in beds in the hotels.
And does that get added to the cost of the room, or is that taken from the hotels?
That is a fee that is paid by whoever rents or has the room for the evening or the weekend. So that's outside of what the hotel collects. So basically, the hotel does collect the money, administrates it. It's in, I'll say, an escrow. And then typically on a quarterly basis, they pay that money to the city, and then we transfer the appropriate amounts to the chamber and to the visitor services.
All right. And then Resolution 12 of 2023, City of Stoughton mileage reimbursement rates to match the IRS rates.
Yeah, so we haven't updated this for many years, and the IRS allows a mileage reimbursement for employees that use their personal vehicles for running errands or going to conferences or meetings. We typically try to use our van that we have here in our fleet, especially if it's a long trip. And so what we did is our finance director put together a resolution to allow us to charge basically what the IRS is allowing us to, and then we can build in the inflationary formula in there. So some years that amount will go up, and other years it may go down.
Okay, and that's all dictated just by the IRS.
Yeah, so what we've been trying to do on a lot of our policies is to align it and put in the consumer price index or cost of living increases so we don't have to come back every year and redo it.
All right. And then Resolution 13 of 2023 was to amend the 2023 adopted budget for city employee market adjustments.
So at budget time, we worked with the city council and we identified some funds that we could set aside for employee compensation. And what we've learned is that we're competing for our employees with the private sector and the public sector as well. Dane County has been very aggressive to try to poach employees from municipalities and the private sector, and they've offered 9% increases for staff, signing bonuses, and other things that they can do to recruit and retain their staff. So it's kind of trickled down to us where we were at a point where we had to do something and get our employees to market rate. So we set aside the money at budget time, and then I instructed our finance director and our HR director to get together, pull some comparables for like positions in other communities that are mostly in Dane County, and then come back with some recommendations, present them to the individual department heads, go through so everybody understands, what decisions and recommendations are going to be made, and then ultimately go to council for approval of the changes in the wages for our employees. And it's been real challenging lately. As I said, the county's really aggressive. They have revenue sources that the city doesn't have. The county has sales tax that they collect, which has been going up because the cost of everything goes up, so their revenue goes up. And then they also have a wheel tax, which we do not have here in Stoughton. So, they've been able to generate more revenue. We're limited on what we can generate for revenue to pay our employees through the net new construction formula because we're under state spending caps. So the state also, recruits some of the same type of employees, similar positions, similar skills and certifications that are required. The state also not only has a sales tax, but they have income tax. And as wages have gone up, the collections for the state have gone up as well, and therefore they're sitting on, billions of dollars of surplus money right now that we would like to see distributed through shared revenue, and that's part of what is happening with the governor and his budget right now. So what we're trying to do is, pay our employees a fair compensation in order to recruit and retain our staff, because we know without quality employees, we're not going to be able to provide the quality services that our community expects and deserves. So this will be an ongoing thing, but we were able to make the adjustments at Stoughton Utilities. We were able to settle with the police union and get that contract for 2 years, and then the final step was for the rest of our employees.
And I remember a little bit from the presentation last night. Director Gillingham talked about how this affected 84 employees, giving them, market rate comparison, and that the 4% increase was the largest in, what did she say, like 9 years?
Yeah, so it's been kind of a long time coming. Director Gillingham and Director Alinger did a great job, not only going through and getting the comparables, but identifying, resources that we could be used. And basically what we did is we had some money that we get from Stoughton Utilities. They pay, it's basically in lieu of taxes, they give us money. And then also there was additional funds that were utilized that are sustainable funds, so we could implement this. This is money that in the past, as we collected it, we used to reduce the amount of money we borrow, and we just made a decision that this is operational money. We should use it for operations. The borrowing is a separate budget. We have a pretty good handle on our borrowing. We've maintained and actually lowered our mill rate the last several years. So we just felt it was important that we find a way to take care of our employees, and thankfully the city council provided great leadership and support.
All right, and then Resolution 14 was approving a cost reimbursement agreement for Stonecrest development.
Stonecrest development is on the east side, so if you go down Racetrack Road, there's a lot of dead-end roads right now that are barricaded, and their plan would be to extend them roads, which would run basically parallel to Highway A, and as a future phase, that development would grow toward Highway 51 over where the Stoughton Airport is. And what we do is when we begin projects with the developers, whether it's Stonecrest or Stoughton Trailers or 51 West or Kettle Park West, we enter into a cost reimbursement agreement so we can be reimbursed for the cost of our city attorney, our engineers, and even staff time. So that's kind of the first step in the process, is to have an agreement that we're going to provide the services, and in return, we need to be reimbursed for that time.
That makes a lot of sense. And then the last item on the agenda was Resolution 15, entering into an agreement with Parisi Construction, LLC for roadway improvements to Deer Point Drive and Oak Opening Drive. What is that project?
So that project involves a couple different things. This particular bid is, there's going to be some road work and utility work that will basically connect Kettle Park West, kind of near where the where the Stoughton Garden Center used to be, which is going to be Jung's now. Behind there, there's some mini warehouses. And what we're doing is we're running water lines up Oak Opening Drive that will connect Kettle Park West to the 51 West development on the west side. So we worked out an agreement with the township, because the land is in the township, to allow us to run the water line up there. And Parisi is going to be doing some road work up there, so we're going to be widening the roads on Oak Opening as it runs and connects the two developments together, as well as redoing and widening Deer Point Drive, which is the road that is in front of Stoughton Lumber that comes to the new roundabout there at Roby. So we were, thrilled that we were able to reach an agreement with the township and make that connection to serve both of those developments. And we were able to get a really favorable bid with Parisi. They've been doing a lot of work here in Stoughton the last several years, not only with us, but with the DOT as well. And we're excited that we got a good bid, and they'll be ready to go in the spring.
And since it's not in Stoughton, what pays for this construction project?
So in this particular one, what we did is when we put together our TIF agreement, our tax incremental financing agreement, part of it will be paid for with the TIF agreement with Kettle Park West, and part of it will be paid for the TIF agreement with 51 West. So that is money that will be generated through the additional buildings that will be built, the property taxes from all the taxing jurisdictions, which is the city, the county, the school district, and Madison College. Instead of being distributed to the individual taxing authorities, that money will all come back to the city to pay for the cost of the money that we use to borrow to do the work.
There's a really good video on TIF on the city website. For those who don't know TIF yet, they can watch that video, and it talks all about how TIF works. So it's really nice that it's not, the city's debt service paying for that. It's the developers.
It's not the city's debt service. It's not any additional taxes. It's taxes that are already paid. It's just, instead of going into the coffers, which technically would reduce the mill rate, it's going to offset the debt. But that also helps expand the tax base. So it's actually a win for the taxpayers as well.
All right, and that was the end of the meeting. Was there anything else that happened at the meeting that we didn't cover so far?
We talked a little bit at the beginning about some catering changes at the senior center. Unfortunately, the caterer that the county only had one bid on the caterer, and that caterer decided to discontinue service. We're extremely fortunate to have an in-house chef and a nutritionist, and they're working very hard out there to continue the Meals on Wheels program during the transition until a county can come up with a permanent caterer. So I want to thank those at the senior center that are involved with not only preparing the meals, but the ones that volunteered to deliver them. So Cindy gave us an update on that, and that was really, the other thing that came up is we will be having the VITA program again this year, which is a free tax preparing service. And that'll begin this Saturday at the senior center. You can come in and get the materials that you need to have your taxes prepared for free. During the meeting, all the different areas of what they can and can't do were covered by our finance director, who's been a volunteer for them for many years. So you can go to the senior center. There'll be applications available at the library as well.
And is there any income limits on that, or is that just open to everybody?
I believe it's open to everybody, including city employees.
All right. And that's all we had for the meeting. Thanks for watching Council Catch Up, and we'll see you in 2 weeks after the next council meeting.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.